Hello there and welcome back to my channel. If you are a teacher and you feel like summer is the only time you have to sit down and read a book,
I am street smart and book smart.
You're not alone. Obviously, the school year is super hectic and busy, but summer is the perfect time to actually enjoy reading, which begs the question, what should I read? So in today's video, I'm gonna share 5 books I think every teacher should read this summer. Now, these are all going to be professional development type books because I want you to be able to immediately apply what you read next school year. And I specifically chose books that can apply to a variety of grade levels and subject areas. And I do think most of these are pretty easy reads. So the first book is How to Differentiate Instruction in Academically Diverse Classrooms by Carol Ann Tomlinson. Now there is both the book as well as the easy reference guide, which is just a laminated foldable and it's hole punched. So this is perfect for keeping in a binder. It has the same content as the book, but obviously not in as much detail. So this is great to have on hand just to look back on after you have actually read the book. Side note, do you highlight when you read? Personally, I am team physical book because I like to highlight in it, but I'm curious what you do. So leave a comment down below. When it comes to differentiation, I feel like that is a topic that we learn about in college, we have professional development on, but yet we always feel as though we can improve as teachers, and this is one of the best books I have read when it comes to differentiation. This book breaks down differentiation in a very easy to understand way. It talks about what differentiation is, what it isn't, the role of the teacher, the environment, how to manage it, and it breaks down differentiation into different categories, if you will. So it talks about how you can differentiate content, process, product, or environment according to students' interests, levels of readiness, and learning profile. Then for each of those, it shares strategies. I will say some of those strategies overlap with each other, but it also has good examples. So for example, on page 50, there's a list of different possible product formats that you can use. And again, that's something where for me, I highlight it so I can easily go back and reference it. I just feel like this book is a great reminder that differentiation doesn't mean planning a different lesson for each student. Rather, you can just make simple adjustments in order to meet students' needs. So when you read this, you feel empowered to take action rather than feeling overwhelmed and defeated. Book number 2, you probably knew this was coming, First Class Teaching, 10 Lessons You Don't Learn in College by Michelle Emerson. That's me. So obviously this is a shameless plug, but I wrote this book from the perspective of I wish I had this when I started teaching, and I've had a lot of veteran teachers read it as well and say that it was full of great reminders for them even later on in their career. Now, I will say this is definitely geared toward elementary school teachers. If you teach middle or high school, some of the ideas may be applicable, but some of them obviously will not be. I do have a video where I read the introduction aloud. That way you know what to expect. You can kind of get a sense for my writing style. So that video will be linked for you down below, but each chapter focuses on a different lesson. So I kick it off with a story from my experience. Some are funny, some are embarrassing, some are heartwarming. It's a good mixture. Then I dive into what lesson I learned from that experience, and I give you strategies that you can try because they worked for me and it might spark some ideas for you as well. And then each chapter ends with a your homework section that gives you some clear steps you can take in order to apply this moving forward. My hope is that this book will make you feel less alone.
You're not alone, sister.
Whether you are going into your first year of teaching or you've been teaching for several years, but you still feel like you're struggling because college didn't exactly prepare you for the realities of the classroom. The third book is The Happy Teacher Habits, 11 Habits of the Happiest, Most Effective Teachers on Earth by Michael Linson. Doesn't that title just sound fantastic, right? Basically, this book is about doing less instead of more as a teacher and how to work smarter instead of harder. So if you're familiar with the 80-20 principle, this book focuses on that, but specific to teaching. Each chapter focuses on a different habit, but I'll be honest, I think the term habit is a little misleading. Each chapter is more of a one-word focus, but within the chapter, there are tons of stories, some related to teaching, some that are not. But I think you will feel very heard and seen, and your feelings will be validated as you read this book. And it just gives you some really good reminders in order to overcome some of those obstacles. I will say, and I think this is true for most books, I do not agree with 100% of the ideas presented, but that's okay. We're all different teachers. We all have different teaching styles. Regardless, I think it's a great big picture view and gives you some reminders of the simple level of things, because we tend to overcomplicate things, especially in the classroom when everything feels very complicated. So I think it has some great reminders for teachers at any stage of their career. Book number 4 is Hacking Classroom Management, 10 Ideas to Help You Become the Type of Teacher They Make Movies About by Mike Roberts. I will say, this is not a general overview of classroom management. If you're looking for a book on that, I recommend the classroom management book. This is more about some new ideas or kind of techniques that you can try, whether you're a new teacher or veteran teacher. I do think this is a great read, again, regardless of where you are in your career. So each chapter focuses on a different hack. It will start by outlining a problem that a lot of educators face, and then describes how the hack can help overcome that problem.
Life hacking, baby.
It gives you a list of things you can do tomorrow in order to get started right away, as well as steps to fully implement it when you are ready. And then it even describes how to overcome pushback, because the author kind of anticipates some of the concerns you might have. And it also gives stories for teachers who have implemented this and kind of the success that they found. Some of the hacks even have behind the scenes with pictures and specific examples, which is super helpful. Once again, I will say, I do not agree with 100% of them, but I did feel like I came away from this book with some new ideas, which is always helpful as a teacher. Plus, I love that the hacks had minimal prep and costs involved. They were things that, again, you can immediately take back and start implementing. Plus, the author really encourages you to make these your own. It's not about following what he says step by step. It's more about tweaking things and adjusting them in order to fit your teaching style and your situation. And I think summer is the perfect time to read this, because a lot of the strategies are about being proactive. So it gives you a new mindset going into the next school year. There's a quote in this book at the beginning where the author says, hey, if the fire's already burning and you're looking for an extinguisher, you're not gonna find it in this book. It's all about preventing the fire before it happens. Side note, and I kind of hate to do this, if you go on Amazon to order this book, you will see there are other books in the hack series. This is one I do not recommend. Hacking Engagement, 50 Tips and Tools to Engage Teachers and Learners Daily. I had really high hopes going into this book, and I felt like out of the 50, I got 3 new ideas. And maybe that just means I was a rock star at student engagement, but I don't think that's the case. I just felt like a lot of the ideas were very, very basic. I read this in an hour when Billy was taking a nap one day, because I would start one of the tips and I'm like, I already do this, or I did that back in college. So just throwing that out there. The 5th book is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I know what you're thinking, Michelle, that's not a teaching book. Correct. However, this is a book I think everyone needs to read. It has over 100,000 reviews on Amazon, if that tells you anything. And a lot of the ideas can very easily be applied to your life, both inside and outside of the classroom. I have found that often the difference between where we are and where we want to be in our lives comes down to the habits that we currently have. And for example, if you are wanting to be the teacher that leaves school every Friday fully planned for the next week, it comes down to building habits that will allow you to accomplish that. And this is the best book I have read on building habits. And I will say, I heard a lot of hype around this book before I read it, so I had high expectations and I still loved it. I first read it in December of 2021, and I've read it twice since then because I loved it that much. You gain a really deep understanding of what it takes to build a habit as well as how to break bad habits. And you gain insight into why your habit building maybe failed in the past. And I felt like as soon as I finished reading this book, I started implementing some of the principles and they have stuck ever since. Now, if you're a podcast listener, Bridget and I on our podcast, Teaching to the Top, we did a full book review, which is episode 107. It's titled Tiny Changes That Give You Big Results. And we also dove into why your habit building might be failing. That is episode 108. So I will link both of those episodes down below. Now, I do have some honorable mentions. Those 5 books are all very broad in terms of grade level and subject area. So I wanted to include a few that are more content specific. So these will only apply to you if you teach that grade level. But since I brought up Bridget, she recently published a book as well. I'm so proud of her. It is called Building the Literacy Block, Structuring the Ultimate ELA Workshop. Now, if you teach ELA and you are curious about how to organize your time, so let's say you have an hour and a half in order to teach reading and writing and grammar, and you're like, how do I fit in all of the things and how do I make those connections between them? This is what you need. So in this book, Bridget has tons of examples, plus it includes a bunch of free resources, templates, graphic organizers, things like that, that you can download as well. So if you have not already grabbed a copy of this book, highly recommend it. And if you teach math and you have not yet read the Making Sense of Mathematics for Teaching books, highly recommend those as well. So there are several different versions of the book. This one is the grades 3 through 5, but there is also a primary grades one as well as middle school and high school. This breaks down how you progress through the standards from one grade to the next, the different strategies students need to be familiar with, why they need to know those strategies because it will benefit them later on. Like if you have ever struggled with teaching math, this book will become your best friend. It's so good. There's tons of examples. And then if you do a lot of small group instruction in math, which you probably should be, I highly recommend this one as well, Making Sense of Mathematics for Teaching the Small Group. It breaks down the best methods for teaching math in a small group setting, and it just will completely change the way that you do it in a really good way. So all of those books are linked on my Amazon favorites list. I have all my PD books as well as some of my favorite read aloud books on that list, but I will link each book individually in the description box as well. Now, if you have already read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, as well as any recommendations you might have for other books, because I'm on a reading kick this year. 2023 is the year of books for me.
Right now, the title of Michael's book is Something Weird is Going On.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it out with your teacher friends, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any other videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.